Mateus was born at a time of year when nature seemed to be holding its breath, looking forward to the end of the year celebrations. It was early December, and although winter wasn't harsh in the small country town, the air had a different, almost solemn freshness. The houses were gradually being decorated with colored lights, garlands, and small bells that tinkled at the slightest breath of wind. There was an atmosphere of renewal in the air, a kind of invitation to recollection and reflection. Oh, and before you go any further, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive more stories from chosen ones that you can relate to. At the exact moment when Matthew made his first cry, a ray of sunshine came through the window of the maternity ward and landed gently on the makeshift cradle. The nurse who was holding him in her arms, noticing that light resting on the newborn, commented softly to his mother, "Look, it seems to be a sign that he's a blessed little boy." The mother, tired but thrilled, smiled and felt a strange tranquility spread through her chest. It was as if that moment, so simple and full of tenderness, had already announced her son's special character. In the first few days of his life, Matthew showed an unusual serenity for a baby. He slept a lot, of course, like all newborns, but there was a subtle detail. When he was awake, his eyes would fixate on apparently empty spots in the room, as if he were following something invisible wandering through the air. His parents found this curious and a little disconcerting. While other babies cried desperately in search of food or warmth, Matthew sometimes seemed to be paying attention to something more subtle, something that no one else noticed. As the weeks went by, Matthew's mother noticed a pattern. All she had to do was feel distressed or worried about something, and when she took her son on her lap, it was as if the tension dissipated. One day, after receiving bad news about a sick relative, she sat in the armchair with the baby on her lap, her heart heavy. Matthew, without saying a word, naturally as he was only a newborn, looked at her with such a peaceful expression that, almost inexplicably, it brought her comfort. It wasn't something that could be measured or proven, but the mother felt that this child carried within him a kind of calm, as if a gentle breeze was constantly blowing around him, easing the pains of the world. Visitors to the family home also began to notice this atmosphere. Grandparents, uncles, and cousins came to meet the new member of the family, and everyone left commenting on the boy's watchful eye. Some said, "He seems to understand what we're saying, even though he's so little." Others said, "He has a deep gaze, as if he could see people's souls." These comments, although they sounded exaggerated, carried a thread of truth that no one could ignore. When Matthew reached his first months, Christmas was approaching. The house was filled with decorations, pine cones, red ribbons, scented candles, and a small tree decorated with care. Matthew's father was a simple but zealous man, and he liked to prepare the house for the holidays. On that first Christmas Eve with the baby, everyone gathered around the table. Even though he was too young to understand what was happening, Matthew seemed to soak up the atmosphere of joy, togetherness, and hope. While people laughed, toasted, and told stories of Christmases past, the baby gazed intently at the lights on the tree, the colorful reflections in the glass ornaments, and seemed mesmerized by the simple beauty of the family scene. A striking detail happened during Matthew's first Christmas. When they played a soft song, almost like a hymn of praise, he stopped fidgeting and remained still, serene, his eyes shining. It was as if the music, the warmth of the family, and the glow of the lights made up a scene that spoke to the boy's soul. His mother, observing him in that awe-inspiring stillness, sensed once again that there was something unique about him, a predisposition to perceive the sacred in small things. By the end of that year, the routine of the house was back to normal, but not for Matthew. He was developing well, growing healthily, And as the months went by, he entered the crawling phase. Now he could explore his surroundings and choose where to focus his attention. It was then that another peculiarity emerged. He was fascinated by natural elements. While other children crawled towards colorful and noisy toys, Matthew preferred to get closer to the sunlight coming through the window, the potted plants on the balcony, the song of a bird in the distance. They were small things, but time and time again his parents would find him standing still, curious, as if he were having a silent conversation with the natural world. One morning, his mother caught him sitting by an open window, staring at the sky with surprising concentration. Outside, the clouds ran lightly on the horizon. His mother felt like asking him what he was seeing, forgetting for a moment that he was just a baby who couldn't answer. Even so, looking into those attentive eyes, she almost believed that if Matthew could speak, he would tell secrets about the rhythm of nature that no one else noticed. Those first months of life were marked by subtleties that, at first glance, could be attributed to the family's imagination. However, there was a consistency to these signs. It wasn't just a glance, a coincidence, or an inspired day. It was a pattern. Matthew was a child who calmed tensions, perceived invisible details, and seemed to find beauty and harmony where others didn't even pay attention. It was as if his spirit was more in tune with something greater, a kind of universal melody that permeated existence. During this initial phase, there were no grandiose revelations or impressive miracles. Everything happened in an almost secret, intimate register. Those who lived with Matthew felt a different energy around him, but they couldn't name it. Some said he was lucky, others attributed it to his parents' loving upbringing, and some just smiled and commented on the calmness of that special boy. Deep down, however, Matthew's mother knew there was something more. In that first year of life, she went through moments of anguish, anxiety, daily challenges, and insecurities typical of motherhood. But every time she hugged her son, she felt a silent response from the universe, as if that little being had come into the world with the mission of reminding everyone that existence is not only made up of rushing around, obligations and fears, but also of silences, contemplation, and secrets that await those who have eyes to see and hearts to feel. And so, before Mateus could even take his first steps, a seed of mystery and beauty had already been planted in his story. A seed that would later germinate into clearer signs, more evident gifts, and a mission that he would carry throughout his life, especially as the end-of-year festivities recurred, bringing in their wake the magic of Christmas, the recollection of winter, and the subtle call to spirituality and reflection. As Matthew left behind the lap baby phase and began to explore the world by crawling, his parents were surprised by the careful way he examined everything around him. Many babies clumsily throw themselves at objects, testing their resistance to knocks, bites, and pulls. Not Matthew. He seemed to have a kind of natural reverence. When he approached a flower on the table, he didn't pluck it, but watched it in silence, like someone studying its petals, its color, its invisible perfume. When he began to take his first steps, just before his first birthday, he showed an unusual balance. It wasn't that he didn't fall. Every child falls when learning to walk. But there was a smoothness to his movements. His falls were less clumsy, almost as if he sensed when he was about to lose his balance and prepared his body to fall lightly without unnecessary crying. Little by little, his parents learned not to be alarmed by small falls, as Matthew got up with a serenity that disarmed any worries. It was also at this stage that his first words began to appear. A baby's vocabulary is usually simple, starting with mommy, daddy, and perhaps the name of something dear, like a stuffed animal or a ball. Mateus was no different, but there was a detail in his speech. He seemed to use words carefully, as if he understood that each sound had a weight. When he said "Mama" for the first time, he looked deep into his mother's eyes, stretching out his hands towards her. He seemed not only to be calling, but also to be thanking, recognizing and blessing that maternal presence in his life. In the same way, when he learned to say "light," pointing to the lamp hanging from the living room ceiling, his expression was one of wonder, not mere pointing. It was as if, by naming the light, he was recognizing something sacred. His parents began to notice that, when learning the names of elements of nature, such as tree, sky, flower, and water, Matthew not only repeated the sound, but enveloped the word in an aura of enchantment. One day, when he learned to say water while watching the rain fall, a smile appeared on his face, and his mother would swear that she saw an intuitive understanding there. Water was life. Water was a gift from heaven. As well as the way he walked and talked, there was Matthew's way of dealing with other people's emotions. When a visitor came to the house with a worried look on his face, even if he didn't understand why, Mateus would approach with curiosity and hold out his small hand, as if inviting the person to share his feelings. Once his aunt entered the room with a gloomy look on her face, worried about a problem at work. Before the family could even ask what was going on, Matthew was already by her side, lightly touching her knee, looking into her eyes with such a welcoming expression that she couldn't hold back the tears. Afterwards, feeling strangely relieved, the aunt commented to the boy's mother, "It's as if he knew how I felt. I don't think I've ever seen such an empathetic child." When Christmas of that second year of life arrived, the family decided to try something different. They were used to singing Christmas carols, but now they decided to do it earlier, while setting up the tree. Matthew, curious, crawled around the tree, gently touching the branches. As he listened to the voices singing softly, the candlelight flickering, the texture of the shiny ornaments reflecting in his eyes, he seemed to sink into a contemplative state. Suddenly, he began to mumble sounds that weren't exactly words, but sounded like little melodies. It was as if he was trying to accompany the singing with his own language, a childlike and sacred language, capable of fusing his admiration for the world with the music that surrounded him. From that moment on, his parents began to recognize a pattern. On special occasions, especially at the holidays, Matthew seemed more connected, more expressive in his sensitivity. It was as if the atmosphere of brotherhood, gratitude, and renewal that hung in the air during Christmas awakened in him an even deeper level of perception. He was enchanted by the lights, the smells, the voices, and above all, the idea of togetherness and welcome. If before he was just an observant baby, now he was a child who participated in his own way in that ritual of celebrating love, hope, and peace. On summer afternoons, Matthew liked to sit on the lawn, feeling the grass under his fingers and watching the insects that passed by. While other children played noisy games, he lost himself in contemplation. One day, his mother found him lying on his stomach, staring intently at an ant, carrying a piece of leaf. It was an ordinary scene, but Matthew's expression was one of fascination, as if he were witnessing a heroic act. When his mother asked what he was doing, Mateus replied with disconcerting simplicity, "She's strong, Mom. She takes a big piece. I don't think she gives up." In that comment, there was an understanding of effort and determination that went beyond the common understanding of such a small child. It wasn't just the observation of an insect. It was the recognition of a value, persistence, present in nature. As the months went by, Mateus also began to express a greater sensitivity to the feelings of animals. The family had a cat, Nero, a white and gray feline who used to be skittish and independent. Everyone knew that Nero liked to be left alone and wasn't given to much affection. But on one occasion, the cat showed up with a limp, probably from a scratch he had suffered during some nocturnal adventure. While his parents were thinking about taking him to the vet, Matthew approached slowly, crouching down next to Nero, without touching him, just looking at him sweetly. Unlike usual, the cat didn't run away. It remained motionless, staring at the child. Then it moved its snout closer to Matthew's outstretched hand, as if seeking a different kind of comfort there. His father, observing the scene, commented to his mother, "It's strange. Nero doesn't let anyone near him when he's hurt. But with Mateus, he stays calm. He seems to feel that the boy won't hurt him." Another striking situation occurred on a cold autumn day when the family decided to go for a walk in the neighborhood. Yellow and red leaves covered the sidewalks, and the characteristic smell of the season hung in the air. As they passed a house a little further away, they heard a child crying. A little girl, apparently a few months younger than Matthew, was sitting on the porch steps, crying softly, hugging a teddy bear. Mateus's parents hesitated to approach. After all, they didn't know the family well and didn't want to seem intrusive. However, Mateus walked straight up to the girl, without any shyness. He sat down next to her and didn't say anything at first. He just stood there, sharing the space and the silence. And so Matthew's childhood went on, between small daily trials and great silent lessons. His gifts remained subtle, not spectacular in the way of obvious miracles, but constant and profound. With each passing year, his parents realized that his presence was influencing not only the family, but also the surrounding community. Like a candle burning in a dark room, Matthew didn't shout, he didn't impose his light. He simply existed in a luminous way, helping people to see a little better inside themselves. Over time, these small manifestations of empathy, calm, and intuition would form a mosaic of irrefutable signs that Matthew was destined for something greater than most could understand. But for now, it was enough to know that he was a loved and respected child, following his path with an open heart and an awakened soul, especially at those times of the year when the world seemed most likely to reflect on gratitude and rebirth. After all, Christmas had always been, and continued to be, a perfect setting for Matthew's gifts to flourish, making him a silent beacon of hope and humanity. Throughout this journey, we have seen that the signs that appear from childhood can often be understood as sacred invitations. Invitations to look beyond the obvious, to feel empathy where others see only silence, and to find the light even in the darkest situations. Being a chosen one doesn't mean having a life without challenges. On the contrary, it means embracing a mission to transform pain into learning and hope into concrete action. It is in this context that a resource like the Chosen Devotional takes on special significance. Over the course of 40 days, its readings and reflections can help you, who also recognize yourself on this journey, to strengthen your faith and clarity of purpose. This devotional does not impose truths, but invites you to delve deeper into the mystery of your own existence, to better understand the love that surrounds us, and to realize that we are not alone on our journey. Each page, each story, is a chance for renewal. A reminder that the difficulties along the way do not erase the call we received early on, but make it more vivid and meaningful. Remember, being chosen is not a privilege for the few, but a call to responsibility to serve, love, and inspire. By embracing who you are, you become a beacon that guides others on uncertain nights. Believing in your mission is an act of faith that reverberates in your community, touching hearts, igniting smiles, and leaving a legacy of light and compassion. If this message has spoken to your heart, share in the comments a word, a phrase, or a reflection, that symbolizes what the journey of the chosen ones means to you. Your voice could be the next spark of hope for someone searching for greater meaning in this great plot of life.